Hello and welcome to Procrastination Point's video Snark. If you came here because you thought that this was an audiobook, please stick around and maybe learn some reading and listening comprehension skills. I read books, discuss what went wrong and how they can possibly be fixed. I'm continuing my read-through of Crewel by Gennifer Albin. Not the first video, go check out the others, links are posted below. Chapter 22. Ad sneaks around in the best way possible by acting like she has more important tasks to be doing, important spinster work. When she's alone, she reveals that she also stole a bit of the magic screen from Laurisil's room. She uses this to see what Joss is doing. She feels bad about dropping more drama onto his lap, but knows that if this situation were reversed, she'd want info about her sister. Ad goes into the kitchen where Joss is working and starts bossing around the maids. She feels terrible about treating everybody like dirt, but knows that this is the kind of behavior that goes unnoticed around here. Josh shows up upon Ad's command and they talk in their weirdly coded words before they leave to go talk in private. However, as soon as they're alone, they start to argue about their desire to protect each other and how they actually don't need protecting. It's a dumb circular argument that grows tiresome quickly and goes on for way longer than it needs to. I feel like they're at the point where they shouldn't have to justify their actions to one another, and the fact that they're doing this is kind of proof of how stupid that both of them are. I can't deal with this anymore. He tries to kiss her, but she stops him and tells him what's been going on. He apologizes for his bad behavior, and then they start making out. Time and place, you two. Time and place. When they finally pull away, Ad tells him that they need to leave. When he questions where they'll go, she proposes pulling him into a moment. However, after she reminds her that it won't work, she finally admits the truth. Pulling people into a bubble is how society is in its current predicament. But Ad goes one further and says that she won't leave Amy behind. That Cormac is of the opinion that Amy might also have similar raving abilities, even though she's never once shown any sign of this before, nor has anybody ever shown that the ability is genetic. Despite all of that, it's not going to stop them from hurting Amy, because they're pathetic people who literally hurt children to get what they want. Joss reminds her that they don't have much time to protect themselves, let alone to go searching for Amy. However, Ad is quick to tell him about how she broke into the file room and saw all of that info. She intentionally doesn't tell him about how they're keeping fragments of threads, or about how creepy and unsettled that the entire thing made her. Ed eventually hands over the card for Joss' daughter. He's obviously upset over the entire thing, but seems to be more in shock than anything else. Like, he doesn't know what to do with this info. Joss asks how it is that he can help Ad to do this. Even if they can't rescue his daughter, I think it's enough for him to know that she's out there somewhere, still alive. However, Ad's grand plan is basically to take things one step at a time, which isn't the greatest, but I also admit that they're both under a lot of pressure, and time is not on their side right now. They lie to a guard in order to get up to Laurisil's studio. Once up there, Ad uses her ability to open up a rift into the filing room again. Then she goes into the room alone and quickly finds her sister's file. Ad can't stand to look at the reasoning listed, even though she knows that it's a load of hogwash. She then starts heading back for the opening, only to find that it's starting to close for some reason, and then somebody grabs her from behind. Chapter 23. Ad obviously fights off her would-be attacker and flees. The rift she created to get into the file room has since closed, which is odd considering that it had stayed open the entire time that she was there the first time, but has now conveniently closed because of plot-related reasons. Ad runs around the room for a while before she tries to make a break for the door. However, her would-be attacker turns out to be Eric. What's he doing there? Rescuing her! From what? Who freaking knows? I'm not even sure that Eric nor the author know at this point. Naturally, he asks what she's doing there. She says finding info and that she doesn't exactly have a plan B, as it was plan A was literally only getting into the room to find her sister's info with nothing after that, despite Eric chiding her for not thinking of a more long-term plan. Again, he never states why he's there, so I'm kind of frustrated with both of them. He takes her outside and flashes his security card to the guard stationed outside the room. As he frog marches her away, he explains that Cormac slipped a tracker into her food designed to lodge itself into your small intestine. I hope they have a lot of those, because one good dose of dairy and it would slide right out of me in 5 seconds. However, as you might imagine, Cormac is somehow too important to actually track Ad himself. Oh no, don't be silly. He has people for that. And by people, I mean Eric, who saw where she was and corrupted the data before he went to go get her. Despite how much effort Eric took to get her out of this situation, he wastes no time in taking her back to Laurisil's studio, where Cormac and a bunch of guards are waiting. And also Priyana and Mela. Why is beyond me, but here we are. When questioned about where Ad had been, Eric only says the research area. This isn't exactly enough to convince her that he's on her side, however. Cormac starts issuing orders, even going so far as to demand that Laurisil show exactly where and what Ad had been doing. He also demands that the doctor come back to completely remap Ad immediately. He's also done with Laura and her sudden desire to act like she has a backbone. Why now, of all times? Now that your life is finally coming to an end, you've begun to see exactly what kind of a world that you've helped to create. Is that it? However, Ad is quick to call Cormac's bluff. If he gets rid of Laura and remaps Ad, there's a chance that they could lose both Crewelers and Waffle Soup. But Cormac says that the scientists think that there's a way that they can turn on the spinning gene in Amy, which hope that it doesn't go well for them at all, and they find out the hard way that they shouldn't have been so quick to toss aside their only saviors. Even if I comply with his wishes, Amy isn't safe. Then literally nothing you do at this point even matters. So don't comply with his wishes if he's simply going to hurt Amy anyway. Why is this so difficult for her to understand? Mela comes back into the room and tells them that the doctor is on their way back to perform the remapping. At this point, with little left to lose, Ad punches Mela. However, Mela's ire ramps up tenfold when Eric grabs her rather than Ad. She reminds Eric that he's only as powerful as Mela herself is because Eric is under her protection. But obviously, that's not going to fly. Not right now. Mela's evil laugh somehow triggers something in the previously broken weave in Lorcel's room. It turns on suddenly, and it only takes a single second for Ad to grab it and rip it in two, which, wow, maybe you shouldn't have taught Ad how flipping easy it was to destroy the literal weave of reality, Mela. At this point, nobody really knows what to do. People seem kind of afraid of Ad, which, good. This is what happens when you tell people that they have power, but then push them to the brink of insanity. Lorcel steps forward and tells Ad that she, and I quote, has the power to stop all of this, which sure freaking hope she's talking about stopping Cormac and the men like him who lord imaginary power over the women who wield the actual power. Because if she's talking about rolling over and simply giving in to Cormac and his increasingly insane demands, hope she suffers along with everybody else for what she's done. However, as it turns out, Lorcel is on the side of the people who've kept her oppressed her entire life. I'm trying so hard not to be disappointed in this turn of events. Like, I wanted to trust you, Lorcel, but at the end of the day, you were nothing but complicit in your own oppression. What's worse is that she's been trying to convince Ad that this is the kind of future that she should work to maintain, where women are forcefully wed to men twice their age, where literal children are ripped from the arms of their parents and forced into a lifetime of slavery. And for what? For a man to play act at power? Lorcel reminds Ad that they'd both kill Amy and Joss if she doesn't obey. However, Ad is really aware of that and again calls them on their bluff, that if they kill both of these people, then there will be literally nothing to keep her in line. The entire thing is stupid. Ad turns to the guard holding Joss hostage and threatens to tear the fabric even more. However, Ad turns to look at Lorcel, and despite how awful that this woman has been this entire freaking time, Ad still wants to save her. Ugh, I'm so freaking over this. Ad reminds Lorcel that they don't actually have anything to threaten her with, not after such a long time. Lorcel agrees, but she's still acting like they're holding her own sister hostage somewhere. Again, this woman is impossibly old, and there's no way that any friends and family are still being kept somewhere. But then Lorcel says the only impossible thing is reality, which reminds Ad that Eris itself is literally nothing but a magic blanket that's been pulled over society, and that if she were to escape to Earth, she likely wouldn't have these magic powers, and Cormac likely wouldn't chase her. However, as you might have figured out, Ad is reluctant to simply go and leave behind the people she cares about, and yes, that list also includes Lorcel, even after how complicit in all of this that Lorcel has been. Mela begins a protest complaining that they don't need Ad now that they're close to the technology to unlock weaving powers in people. Again, it feels like a massive case of counting chickens before they hatch, but whatever. At this point, Ad uses Mela and her jealousy about Eric to goad the woman into a reaction. She starts going on about how she knows about the secret about Eric and Joss, that they're actually brothers. For some reason, Mela decides to raise to the obvious bait. Going back to some earlier comments that I made about her, it's probably because her emotional growth stopped when she was forced into this life back when she was 16. Mela jumps for Eric to attack him, but somehow forgot the giant gaping hole Ad tore in the fabric of reality that runs through the room. The two of them tumble into the hole. Ad then jumps for Joss and drags him into the hole as well. He's too weak to put up much of a fight, however, and simply lets her do this. Then Lorcel quickly begins to mend the seam. Ad knows that the girls will stop her before she can finish, but honestly, this is the most selfless thing that Lorcel has done this entire book. In the void beyond the wave, Eric is frantic to get up to Ad. Joss clings to his brother, and the two of them cling to Ad. Ad is basically the only thing keeping them from falling off into nothing where they're sure to die. What happened to Mela is apparently nobody's business. However, I'm wondering if this won't be the last we see of her. She'll probably come crawling back like a cockroach. Ad manages to manipulate the weave into opening up on Earth. She sticks her head through first, simply to ensure that they don't end up falling into water, and is relieved to find that she's hanging above her straight in the middle of the night. She thinks briefly about what might be happening back in Erish. She knows that she won't be able to return there no matter what, that they'd be on the lookout for the three of them to return. And after betraying Cormac like that, Lorisol will probably be in no position to do much good, assuming, of course, Cormac doesn't order Lorisol killed then and there. And continues to make a hole in order for them to get through. As she works, she knows that their survival here is quite iffy at best. However, in my opinion, it's got to be better than what they'd escaped. Also, when you stop to remember that there are 2 other books after this, obviously there's going to be people who are around on Earth, people who refused to go in the first place, maybe some others who escaped ours. Who knows? Guess we'll find out. The 3 of them shimmy through the hole and then on the ruins of civilization. Eric and Josh seem to be immediately at each other's throats, though, but then a massive flying ship appears and sweeps its lights over the 3 of them. Ad says that it's like being welcomed home, which is an odd thing to say, but I think it might be foreshadowing. So, final thoughts time. Have I read worse dystopias? For sure. It's hard for me to think of a dystopia I read that was actually super amazing. However, the world building left a lot to be desired. The author seemed to know what she was talking about, but never once seemed to realize, oh, the readers don't know what this is. I'm still confused about what rebounding is. It was literally never explained. I'm mainly floored at the idea that literally no woman dared to stand up against the tyranny of those inherently impotent men. Like, the men had no actual power, and the position that they held over the women was nothing more than an illusion of control. It's something that I kept circling back to, if only because the book would not stop beating us around the head with the concept of men equals power, women equals service. It's even more frustrating when you think about people like Lorisol who knew everything, yet sat back and did nothing to help out their fellow women. At literally any point, she could have put a stop to all of this, yet she actively chose to keep herself oppressed. I think the only saving grace of this sexist slog of a novel was how original the concept of living in a woven bubble with people who have the ability to manipulate said weave was. I'm sure that if I dug around, I could find some other books with similar concepts, but I've personally never seen it before, so it was interesting. This is the point where I usually talk about how to fix the book. However, I'm going to hold off on that until after I finish the series. I'm adding the next 2 books, Altered and Unraveled, to my queue for Patreon. I will get to them after I finish up the Maze Runner series. This is also the point where I announce which books that I'll be doing for YouTube next. However, I need a break from all of this. I might be back in March, maybe April. We'll see. I hope to work on a good long queue in the meantime. Spoiler from the future, I probably won't. Thanks for listening to my Book Snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because I sometimes drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to help me out. The first is watching this video as well as all my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all of your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main Book Snarks, always free and updated every morning. Newly added to Patreon is to become a member without paying. You'll get access to the same things on Tumblr, but on Patreon. Supporters can have access to so many more Booksnarks starting at $1 a month. Also, new is a 1-week free Patreon trial, so be sure to check that out. Special thanks to Dawn and Phoebe for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my Snark so much that you want me to snark your writing? I do that too. For just $6 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your writing is, but not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well, just $10 per chapter. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of spicy short stories and 2 full-length novels. I also frequently run flash sales on my stories, and if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do so just so you can know when I might be offering things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys!